I'm speechless.
I'm the devil.
What the fuck is wrong with this guy? Hello, spooky friends. It's Alexis, and welcome to Book versus Movie, Episode 1, The Exorcist. Hello, happy Halloween if you are watching this on the release day, and happy Halloween if you're not watching it on Halloween. It is never the wrong time of year to celebrate spooky season and horror stories like The Exorcist. If you are a big horror movie fan, like I am, you might have had a similar introduction to horror movies as I did. As a young teenager with internet access, I frequently Googled scariest movies of all time, top 100 scary movies, movies that are actually scary, all of the combinations, and there has always been one single movie that stands out. You can ask almost anybody, I feel, and they will tell you that The Exorcist is one of the scariest movies they have ever seen. So, of course, I had to know what all the hype was about. The Exorcist is a 1973 American supernatural horror film directed by William Friedkin from a screenplay by William Peter Blatty based on his 1971 novel. The film follows the demonic possession of a young girl and the attempt to rescue her through an exorcism by two Catholic priests. The cultural conversation around the film helped it become the first horror film to be nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture, as well as 9 others. Blatty won Best Adapted Screenplay, while the sound engineers took Best Sound. It has had several sequels and was the highest-grossing R-rated horror film until 2017's It. The Exorcist significantly influenced pop culture, and it has been included on lists of the greatest films ever made. In 2010, the Library of Congress selected the film for preservation in the United States National Film Registry as being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. So with so much history and cultural significance surrounding this film, I had to know if the original source material was just as good. So I thought this was the perfect book to put it to the test for my first episode of Book versus Movie, where I am going to read classic horror stories and then watch the film adaptations and put them up against each other, compare them to figure out which is better, the book or the movie. I know, us being readers, we are already a little biased to pick the book over the movie, so I don't think it will be much of a competition. Who knows though, we might be surprised by some things, but I still think it's really, really fun to compare these two pieces of art that are different but connected. Also, as a horror nerd, this just gives me the opportunity to visit some of my favorite horror movies that I have never read the book for, or watch movies I've never seen. So in the case of The Exorcist, I had seen the movie before I read the book, and then this was my first time reading it. If you've watched my channel before, you might remember that I actually read this back in September. There has been a little bit of a delay in getting this posted, and once it got closer to Halloween time, I decided Halloween would be the perfect time to kick this series off. And don't worry, if you've never read the book or seen the movie before, this vlog is spoiler-free for the most part. I do maybe go into very minor spoilers, but I feel like everybody sort of knows the general story of The Exorcist, even if you've never watched the movie. So, with all of that setup out of the way, I'm actually going to send you back in time to September 29th when I first started this. And then I will see you back here in present time to do our final wrap-up of the book and to finally watch the movie. About 20 more pages. I'm on page 64. I think still in chapter 2. Chapter 3. Nothing too big has happened yet. I just wanted to point out that we just got our first mention of Satanism. Chris is throwing a party and all of the guests are just talking about Black Mass, which is basically a travesty on the Catholic Mass, explained the dean. It's connected to devil worship. And they go into a little bit of detail what the Satanists did during this Mass and how they defaced the church and blah, blah, blah. And it's our first real mention of Satanists and why they're so evil and so bad. And you can definitely see how it fueled the satanic panic that came after this, with all the beliefs that there were just these groups of Satanist cult members sacrificing babies and drinking blood and all that stuff. So again, not saying it started with The Exorcist, but I have heard that this was like a big influence. So definitely something I'm interested in learning more about. On my TBR, when I mentioned this, my friend Tiffany mentioned this podcast that goes into sort of the legend, because if you didn't know, the movie is said to be haunted, and I heard that the book is haunted too and might be based off of a true story, or at least true events, you know. This is just such a classic one that I just want to know everything about it, just want to learn more because I think it's so cool. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I am doing immersive reading for this because my friend Bo just read this in August, I want to say, and she could not recommend the audiobook enough. It's actually narrated by the author himself, William Peter Blatty. And at first, I was a little like, meh, couldn't really get into it, but now I think we're vibing. I'm liking it a lot more. It's not incredible. It's not like the best audiobook I've ever listened to. It's fine so far. But I'm excited to get farther into it because, again, nothing scary has happened yet. Oh my gosh, literally 10 pages later, I'm now on page 75, and our first iconic scene has happened. If you've seen the movie, you know what happens at the mother's party where Reagan comes downstairs to say hi. I forgot this is when that happened. Like, I obviously remember that scene from the movie, but I didn't know it was so early on. I thought it was farther into the progression of her possession. Did not mean to rhyme there. Iconic, creepy, just like it was in the movie. This chick just did the iconic bent over backwards stance that we always see Reagan impersonators in like haunted houses and shit doing. Honestly, this was pretty creepy. A lot creepier than it was in the movie, the way they're describing it. I'm laughing at it because it's sort of over the top and ridiculous, and I have the lights on, but like honestly, if I was alone in the dark reading this, I might be a little freaked out. That was creepier than I expected it to be. Hello again. It is the next evening, actually. We did not talk anymore last night or today because I've been very busy. So let's first rewind to last night where I ended up starting and finishing part 2 without talking to you at all. I definitely had planned to. There was just so much happening that I had thoughts about and that I wanted to talk to you about, but I couldn't stop listening. The horror has ramped up and I'm speechless. Like, it's been almost 24 hours at this point since I read some of these scenes last night. Oh my God. Like, if you think the movie's bad, this just gets so much more detailed, so much more gruesome. I just read the scene. So if you know, you know. Speechless. I was not expecting this from a book published in the 70s? Yeah, 1971. What the fuck is wrong with this guy? And what the fuck is wrong with me for, I don't want to say enjoying it because it was very graphic, very difficult to read, But I sort of love when my horror shocks me. I was not expecting that. So yeah, that happened. To give you a quick recap of part 2 without spoiling anything, the demonic possession is front and center for part 2. So Chris starts taking Reagan to a doctor. They figure out that it's nothing physical. They start taking her to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist puts her under hypnosis and kind of gets it out of her that there's something in her. We presume it to be a demon. And then from there, we just get scene after scene of Reagan's body being taken over by this entity that we're calling Captain Howdy after her friend. And I mean, like, just blocks of highlighting these super gruesome, terrifying scenes. Again, I was reading this with the lights on, so it wasn't affecting me too much, but like reading this in the dark and taking it seriously would be terrifying. I think I have the images from the movie clouding my judgment of this, where they're almost comical to me, because in my opinion, and it's been a few years, so maybe I'll feel differently now, but I remember watching The Exorcist and just finding Reagan's makeup costumes to be laughable. I did not find them scary at all. Plus you have things like Scary Movie spoofing it that just lives in my head now. So it's definitely my past experience with this making it not as terrifying to me. But if you don't know this story and like what to expect, I think this could be really terrifying. It definitely deals with a lot of messed up shit. So that's that. And then the last thing that happened at the end of part 2 is, I can't even remember who it was, but somebody, like a cop or something that was at the house, because that's a whole other thing that's going on. There's now this murder investigation. But he brings up to Chris, have you thought of doing an exorcism? And she's like, what's that? He kind of explains it. We get a little bit of a history lesson about how long exorcisms have been around for and all that stuff. So we've planted the seed of the exorcism, and I'm sure it will be happening soon. That brings us to today. I just got done with reading sprints and editing my October TBR to go up tomorrow. So even though I am tired, it is now time to jump back into it. I think when I checked last night, I had something like 50% left to go. It's fine. It's fine. I'm going to finish it before I go to bed tonight. That's all that matters. And then it counts as being completed in September. I've been folding laundry. Oh my God, that pile looks massive. I literally just finished and sat down, and the dogs think that I am sitting on the floor, for them of course, but just wanted to give a quick update. I don't actually know how far I am. It just feels like I've listened to a lot. Let's see. I'm at 67%. I have an hour and 40 minutes left, I believe, but I'm listening at 2.5 times speed. So at this point, our priest has gotten involved. He met Reagan, the demon, and right now he is just trying to get evidence to be able to perform the exorcism. He can't just go in and do it himself. He has to get permission from the Catholic Church. So he's reading lots of texts and researching and trying to prove that this is a real demonic possession and not mental health related. And then yeah, it's just still been so much like the movie. As far as I remember, I feel like this is a really, really spot on book to movie adaptation. I know the screenplay was written by the author, so it makes sense, but I know there's other instances where the author was involved in the movie and things are completely different. So impressed by that and just excited to rewatch the movie after all this. It is not funny, but I cannot help myself but laugh every time they do like the devil voice coming out of Reagan. Like the first time she meets the priest, he's like, hi, I'm Father Damien. And she goes,
I'm the devil.
It's so funny. It's so ridiculous. Like, stuff could be genuinely scary. I am just incapable of taking anything seriously, so I'm finding it really, really funny.
We hope you have enjoyed this unabridged production of The Exorcist 40th Anniversary Edition. This program was produced by John Marshall Media. The director was Paula Parker. Executive producer, Karen Jakonski. Text copyright 1971-2011 by William Peter Blatty. Production.
I finished. It is technically 12:23 a.m., but I have not gone to sleep yet, so it still counts as September to me. And I'm counting that as completing my September TBR on time. Hello, kitten. We got her an orange collar. Doesn't it look so good? So Halloween-y? Are you in the Halloween spirit, Kit? The thing is, she sleeps in this chair when I go to bed, so she's wondering why I'm still in her bed. That is my sign to go to bed. I will give you a better review and my thoughts tomorrow, but I think initial impression, I'm going with a 4-star rating, but I will sleep on it and let you know if I change my mind tomorrow. And we're back. I have to be honest with you, it has been a full month since I finished this. I am so bad at remembering to film outros. If I ever say in a vlog that I will give you my review tomorrow morning because I'm too tired right then, it's never gonna be the next morning. So here I am coming in to let you know that I did stick with the 4-star rating. If I had to think about it, about the significance this had on the world after it was released, I might bump it up to 5-star, but I think I am just gonna stick with 4 because I don't really like to change my ratings after I've decided them. Plus, I like to rate books based on my enjoyment. And while this book is so significant, so important to the impact it had, and honestly, a really good, really creepy book, my enjoyment of it felt more like a 4-star read. There were some parts that were a little slow, mostly when we were following the priest character. I just didn't find it as interesting as following Regan and her possession. I understand why it was included. We needed a bit more background about the exorcism process, and plus it just couldn't be a story just about the scares, just about the terrible things happening to Regan, because you need a little bit of a break between those horrific scenes. I understand why it was included. I just didn't love it as much as I love the scenes having to do with Regan and the demon. Without spoiling anything about part 3 of the novel, it was very similar to the movie if you have seen it. Having watched the movie first before I read this, I knew what to expect and I was ready for it. Had I not known what was going to happen, I think this would have been terrifying. I think that's definitely something I'm excited for in future episodes, going into a book brand new, not having read it before, not really knowing the story, and not having watched the movie. I think those are going to be my most successful episodes, but it is still fun to revisit old favorites and, you know, see where they came from, like The Exorcist. I do think what made the film so successful was having William Peter Blatty write the screenplay and just really be involved in making the movie. He was able to put his vision, his story onto the screen, and I feel, from what I remember, it had the same effect, the same scare quality that the book did. We're gonna put that to the test now because I am about to watch the movie for the first time in I don't know how many years. It has to be like 7 or 8 years because I don't think I've watched it since we moved into this house. I'm gonna wait just a little while. I have some things I have to do this late afternoon, but once the sun goes down, it gets dark in here. We are going to turn off all of the lights, make it super spooky in here, and start our movie night. just finished my rewatch of the film The Exorcist, and I am ready to tell you my thoughts and discuss and do our final comparison to the book. I was not expecting to dislike the movie more this time than I remember previously. So if you had asked me before this rewatch, I probably would have told you this was a 5-star film. I don't remember having any issues with it. Like, you know, it's The Exorcist. Everybody loves this movie. But now that I have read the book and know the original source material and know the full story, things that were left out, things that were done differently, I definitely prefer the book in big ways. So the first thing that jumped out at me is how slow the beginning of the film is. I feel like we don't get into the possession part of it until a ways into the movie. I do feel like I remember it always having a slow start, but not as slow as it felt this watch. Knowing what was to come and just how almost fast it happens in the book, because this is not a long book at all. I was just waiting for something to happen, and I feel like I was waiting a while. And don't get me wrong, once the action started, once the demon possesses Regan, it really is go from there, but the beginning scenes were just so long and drawn out. I was just like, what is the point of this? Just waiting for something to happen. And along with that, another difference between the book and the movie is I feel like there were so many more scenes about Father Damien Karras in the film than there were in the book. There were definitely some scenes in the book. I feel like a big chunk of part 2 was his point of view about him, but in the movie, it just felt different. It felt like a lot more. It felt like he was the main character of the film, and maybe I just didn't pick up on that. Maybe in the book he was supposed to be a bigger impact, but I was really reading it for Regan's story, and that's what I was interested in. During the movie, I just wanted to keep getting back to Regan, see what would happen next. The one thing that I did remember accurately, and I kind of talked about while reading the book, was how almost cheesy the movie was during certain parts. I'm sure when this came out in the 70s, it was a lot scarier. But watching it now in 2025, or even the first time I watched it, probably 15 years ago at this point, just horror movies are different now, special effects are different now, and I just had a really hard time kind of taking this movie seriously. A lot of the things Regan says and does while possessed are funny to me, so I was laughing a lot at the movie. And I think in that aspect, the book ended up being scarier, which I don't know if I've ever said before or will ever say again, because I firmly believe that it's hard to scare somebody in a book. With a movie, it's a lot easier. You have the music playing into it, the visual effects, all that stuff. With books, you really have to rely on the words on a page and their descriptions to elicit fear from a reader, and that's very, very difficult to do. But that is one thing that William Peter Blatty did so well. The book was so much more terrifying than the movie. So I do believe that is the primary reason why I prefer the book to the movie. Again, this is just my opinion based on my enjoyment. I still recognize that they are both incredible works of art. I'm not saying the movie's bad. I'm just saying I'm surprised I preferred the book more. I did not expect that going into this. If I were to give the movie a star rating, I would give it 4 out of 5 stars, which is the same rating I gave the book. But I so much preferred the book to the movie this time. If you have also read the book and seen the film for The Exorcist, please let me know in a comment below, which did you prefer? Or if you would just like to leave me an emoji to let me know you were here, please leave me the demon emoji. That's gonna be all for now, friends. If you like this one, please give me a like and subscribe so I know that this is something you'd be interested in me doing more of, because it's definitely something I wanna keep doing. And please let me know if there is a book/movie that you would like me to feature next. But as always, friends, I hope you read a good book today or watch a scary movie, and I will see you soon in my next one. Bye.